everybody. Welcome back. Day 3, ATSV 2021. Very happy to welcome back an old compatriot of ATS, Mr. Sal Khokhar, CEO of kollective.moda. He's here to talk about how Asia can create brands to reach American customers. Very, very interested personally to hear about this one. I know Asia is developing very quickly as far, not just from a manufacturing perspective, but from actually creating brands and, the emerging middle class and everything like that. So Sal, welcome. I want to remind everybody that we do have a chat function. Q&A is going to be at the very end of the session, as well as our Facebook Live viewers. Please feel free to include your questions in the comment section and they'll be fed directly to us over here on Zoom. So without any further ado, Sal, the floor is yours. I'll be running support in the background here.
Thank you, Jason. And again, thank you, ATS, for having me back and speaking about a topic that's more relevant than ever after the economically stressful year a lot of manufacturers have had worldwide. What I'd like to do is briefly speak about my background, my experience, and then go right into the subject matter of how Asian brands can create, how Asian manufacturers can create brands directly for consumers, and as well as enhance their existing private label and sourcing business. My background, this is Sal Khokhar. I'm CEO of Collective MoDa, a brand licensing group that works with US brands to enter international markets through distribution, joint venture, franchising, as well as working with European and Asian brands to enter the US and European markets in the same manner. My background is I started out at Calvin Klein very early on in my career in European sales, which led to Donna, Karan, where ran the shoe and handbag business, which eventually grew to the international licensing and franchising business. We sold the company to LVMH, from which point Collective MoDa was born. And ever since then, we've been working on brand creation, brand distribution, franchising, retail store concepts, and a lot of licensing. In recent years, what we have been looking at is the incredible talent in Asia, in India, Korea, Japan, South America, where there are local manufacturers with skill sets which cover the entire pipeline, the entire supply chain of brand creation, except the actual brand creation. They have the capability of design, studios, sample making, pattern making, obviously sample making, and then the resources for production. The piece that's missing is creating a brand, the actual knowledge of the day-to-day in-market trends, which can be translated into a collection, and then how it's marketed, whether it's direct to consumer or whether it's through wholesale channels in department stores and so on. The idea really is that if we looked at the order cancellations that took place in the last year, with major retailers having to shut down, having to cancel orders, the pain points essentially were translated back to the factories. When factories had already gone through 50, 60, 75% of the production of an order, and then they receive a cancellation with no real recourse, that is a huge burden on any operating company. Our thought process today is we can't change the business overnight, and hopefully the right things are going to happen over the next several years where everyone, all the stakeholders, take responsibility for their commitments, whether they be orders, whether it's be whatever it takes. Now, I think the issue is more, how do manufacturers treat themselves as not a single vertical revenue? What that means is all of your eggs cannot be in one basket. if your entire revenue source is dependent on manufacturing orders from a retailer in Europe or in the US, and something happens like the COVID crisis and retail shuts down, orders are canceled, there needs to be another strategy. One of those strategies is going direct to consumer. It's not as hard as it might seem, but for factories that have never done this, we can walk through the process and go through that. I have someone here, CSC has raised their hand. I'm happy to address the question right now before I get into the market. Would you want to do that, Jason, or how do we proceed?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem at all.
Let's take that question then.
Where did you see that?
I just saw CSC raising their hand, but if
yeah, I'm not seeing any. If anybody has a question, please type it into the chat or Q&A. That'd be the way to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So as we get questions, and I'm happy to take them as they come in. So please feel free to ask the question right then and there. What I was going to get to was the strategy. The strategy is you can create your own brand, you can buy a brand, or you can license a brand. Any one of these three gives you the vehicle to go direct to consumer. Direct to consumer can be through a wholesale partner, through an online platform where you do all the marketing, or it can be through the acquisition of a brand, which then is being sold at wholesale or being sold online. Each of those has a cost attached to it. Probably the most cost effective is licensing a brand. Licensing a brand essentially means doing a joint venture or partnership with an existing brand with US or EU distribution at retail already, and getting the rights to manufacture for it. What this does is you can do a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal and manufacture for that brand. And now you have the knowledge and the stability within your factory that you're going to have orders for the next 3 to 5 years because you have a contract with this company. The second thing is creating your own brand. Creating your own brand has a cost attached to it. It can be as little as 250,000, $500,000, upwards of 2 to 3 million, depending on what you want to spend on it. It's usually an exercise that takes around 18 to 24 months, where you go through the design process, the trend process, the branding and packaging process, the online distribution process, and now you go to market. You introduce the brand into market. The traditional route was you do a showroom, you do market week, you do trade shows, but that has been accelerated over the last year. Now, most brands will create their own online platform, go direct to the consumer, and spend the money on media buying and integrated media ads. So everything from Facebook to Instagram and so on and so forth, and just bring customers to the site and fulfill through a distribution center, which can be outsourced. So again, if I speak too fast, please take notes or just raise your hand and ask the question. The third is depending on your investment interest. If you are a large enough company and you want to spend anywhere between 5 to 20 million to acquire a brand, that's one way to go. The other way to go is getting 5 factories together, one in outerwear, one in swimwear, one in underwear, one in socks, one in hats, one in eyewear, and get together and put in 2 million each and buy a brand and own the category exclusivity for that brand. Now what you've done is you own the rights for distribution in your own market, plus you have now given yourself a pipeline direct to consumer, direct to retailers forever through the asset, this brand that you have purchased. How this helps you, and you may think, oh, how much revenue am I going to make with this? This could be, if you're buying a $20 million brand, that means it does around, most likely around 10 million in sales. That 10 million in sales is about only 3 million in product costs. However, the value of that brand is that when you are selling that brand into a Sears or a Target or a Costco or a JCPenney's, you're now being seen as a brand. So on one hand, the conversation is, I'm selling you the brand, but on the other hand, the conversation is, I'm a factory in China or any part of Asia, and I can manufacture your private label for you. At that point, you have immediately elevated your status as a factory because of your design capabilities, because of your trend knowledge, because of your ability to work directly with a retailer without a middle person like a broker or a salesperson. You are the corporation that both owns the factory and owns the brand. This significantly will grow your manufacturing and your private label business. So those are a couple of the points that I wanted to throw out there, that brand acquisition or brand creation are not just about the idea of going direct to consumer. They are about longevity and stability in the company of a certain revenue base that is in your control. You will not get canceled orders because you are the brand. The second piece of it is the positioning of your corporation, your company, your manufacturing. You now get to meet buyers at a different level, and you get to tell them about your resources and capabilities. You get to tell them about the design studio that you've developed, which can now offer them the private label that they might need faster at the price points that they're looking for with the margins that they require. So the decision a buyers is making, they're very key factors. It's not about the price. And this is, I think there's a lot of things that I may be saying that are rudimentary, but I think we all in the industry need to be reminded of what are the business needs of our counterparts. It's, if I'm speaking as a manufacturer, I must know what my retail partner wants, what they need, and what is it that will help them make the decision to change sourcing, to change manufacturers. If they've been working with someone for 10 years, what will it take for them to switch? And on the contrary, if I'm the one they've been working with for 10 years, how do I ensure that they stay with me? So those factors are in many cases, pricing is maybe the last factor, and it could be the decision-making factor in some cases, but much before that comes, obviously, capability, but communication. How comfortable are you going to make me as a buyer that what I need gets addressed in a timely manner, in a professional manner, in a speedy and efficient manner? That's one of the first things as a buyer, as a brand, I have always thought of when I'm working with a sourcing partner. The idea that I have someone on the other side looking out for our urgencies, and such as design and development, being able to get the samples early enough to be able to make decision, to make changes prior to market. Obviously, getting the samples plenty of in advance of market to be able to shoot the collection, to be able to create a lookbook, presenting it from market. When you present it at market, the idea at that point is everything needs to be done. Pricing has to be confirmed long before market. So your sales team has no hesitation saying, yes, this sample will get delivered on this date at this price point with this minimum. So the communication between the factory and the brand has to be confirmed. Any negotiations that need to be done have to happen long before market. So if we were to look at the next market is August, September market. Around August, September, I would think samples need to be delivered for spring 2022, no later than August 1st, no later than August 1st, preferably mid-July. If I get them by mid-July, and I'm speaking again to factories as a brand or even a retailer, only if I get them by mid-July, and that's final samples. Earlier samples need to come a month before so we can make changes. The final samples, once I get them, keep in mind that a brand needs to shoot them for their lookbook or for their online platform. They need to price them out. They need to tag them out and get the sales team familiar with them so they're ready for market. Market will be mid-August, first week of September, and it'll continue on for 6 weeks from that standpoint. At that point, orders are given most likely first week of October, which gives everyone November, December, and January to deliver on time. So if spring can get to us, everybody wants spring in January. I personally, with the retailers and brands I work with, I think the fashion calendar requires a bit of an adjustment, but nobody's buying spring in January. So if it gets to me by February, I would rather have an extra month to chase orders in October than be sitting with September inventory in January. So if we get inventory by February, so that's the production cycle. From spring to fall, there's more time. This is again, not news, but it's a refresher on factories understanding what a brand's requirements are. Let's talk about briefly. I'll go through a small presentation for our Chinese audience. We have the presentation in Mandarin. What we're talking about is the missing components of brand creation. Design and development, trend and merchandising. The most important piece is the branding, the creation of the name, the image, the fashion films, the lookbooks, all of the collateral that converts what otherwise would be a pair of pants into a branded lifestyle sportswear collection. And by doing that, we are able to elevate the price point and now not be a resource to the designer, but actually be a competitor to the designer. These are, if you think about it, the biggest expense is production and sourcing. If factories have already incurred that expense, the design, development, and marketing is not so much an expense, but more a talent and a resource that needs to be either hired, acquired, or integrated into the existing infrastructures. We've been talking about incubators and accelerators, very similar to the tech industry. And essentially what we're talking about is working with factories to ensure that they're getting these services in a way that's efficient and quick. Efficient in the sense that a factory, before you bring your samples and show them at a trade show like ATS or any other trade show, uh, the most important thing is that your samples are on trend, that you have done your research for the fabrics, you've done your research for what is selling at retail last season, and that your imagery for your lookbook is up to par. And when we go on your website, it doesn't look like it's from 1982. It looks like it's something that is contemporary, clean, today, because you are, even as a factory, you are representing your brand to the marketplace. So how that site looks and what is that site's social presence, whether you are on Instagram or whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on LinkedIn. If you don't have those profiles, all of a sudden a European or a US customer will shy away from doing business, simply because they do not have the comfort level of transparency. So transparency is all about making sure that that transparency is all about making sure that you're giving your customer all of the information they need to make a decision. So by the time you get on a conference call or a, let me just open up our, by the time you get on a conference call and just one moment, and start speaking to your potential client, they should already have done their homework on you and be comfortable doing business with you. And now it's just about, okay, what do you make? You know, how soon can you get it to us? How much lead time do you need? What kind of price points can you give us? What kind of minimums? So before the traditional conversation happens, your customer will already have done their homework on you as a company. And if that homework was not transparent enough, professional looking enough, you'll never have that conversation. So that's the single most important thing, what your presence looks like online before you even get there. The second thing, I'm going to come back to this, but I want to leave it at a certain page. The second thing is your trend understanding. Your understanding of the marketplace and your added value. So imagine that there are thousands of factories around the world that are making the same product for about the same price point. So the most important thing in your conversation is differentiation. Differentiation being, what is the added value that I'm offering my client? What is where am I willing to go above and beyond when it comes to customer service to work with my client? And in both those scenarios, knowledge of trend, ability to communicate, delivering on time become way more important than beating someone's price by a few percentage points. Now, if two companies are equal and they're offering the same thing, yes, I'm going to go with the one that beats the price. But other than that, that's the key thing. You must think that all of your competition is going to offer the same price. So you need to be differentiated in some way, shape, or form. So I'd like to take a quick pause here before I get into this discussion of creating a brand. Are there any questions from the attendees? Please, Jason, do you want to mention how they can ask these questions? And then I'll take some of those questions and I'll go into brand creation.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please post them on the chat or the Q&A function here on Zoom. We don't have any coming in from Facebook Live at the moment. Let's see here. Yeah, no questions so far.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go through a small exercise here where I can talk a little bit about some of the brands that we work with over the last 25 years or so between Calvin Klein, Donna, Karan, Y3. Um, and what I want to talk about is not just our experience working with these brands, but about the visual campaigns that created iconic product categories which got to live for decades. So, you know, Calvin Klein is probably historically one of the best known denim lifestyle brands. What started out as a designer collection eventually went on to sportswear, and sportswear is, you know, Calvin's campaigns were so provocative, so interesting, and reached a young consumer. Now, if you look at these campaigns, at the end of the day, this one, the one with Kate Moss and Mark Wahlberg, was so iconic because both individuals were not quite at the peak of their career, but interesting enough for uh, the cultural moment that Calvin picked them and made them the face of his brand, which connected with the demographic, the customers that he was going after. So the 17 to 25-year-old was obsessed with the culture, the model culture, and at the same time the boy band culture. This campaign ended up becoming so iconic that 20 years later, you've got um, Justin Bieber in the similar campaign, almost identical from a color standpoint, almost identical from a positioning standpoint, and the brand is still able to continue with nothing new, but yet just finding the right individual to connect with the teenage community to make their product relevant. At the end of the day, only they're selling three things. One is the lifestyle of the brand, the second is the underwear, and the third is the pair of jeans. So it's not about how many products I can put on my model to sell in that picture. It's about, will this picture convince my potential customer that I'm the brand that stands above and beyond everyone else that's out there? Um, Donna Karan, which is a competitor at the time for Calvin Klein, uses celebrities, and very specifically a celebrity of a different demographic, a different age range, and a different intellectual set to go after a professional woman. And that was her skill set. So choosing someone like Kate Blanchett, who had just won an Oscar for Elizabeth, to be the face of the campaign was very strategic to say we are an American premium luxury brand that is available at Saks and Neiman's and Bloomingdale's, whereas Calvin is, we are a youth-driven, popular brand available at Macy's and Dillard's and Nordstrom's. So very, clearly the images clearly convey who the customer demographic is. Fast forward from DKNY wanting to collaborate. So this is a quick little collaboration where it started a trend that continues today, where you have a brand that has lost its connection to youth or to a new generation, whereas influencers have a closer connection to that audience than the brand itself does, which helps create a combined power of both to reach a broader audience. So Cara Delevingne, with like her millions of followers, combined with DKNY with its heritage of 20 years of brands in as a brand in the US and Europe, combined, you have the perfect mix to present a new youth collection, a new lifestyle, a new look to a new generation, and reintroducing the brand to them. Y3 as an activewear brand, this, of all the places where I've worked, I've always said that this is probably the most exciting company and one of the most rewarding opportunities, because as a heritage brand, Adidas is incredible. They've been around for over 50, 60 years, and they have gone way beyond the authenticity of sports and athletes. The Y3 collaboration with Yohji Yamamoto and Adidas is all about fashion coming to athlete sportswears. Um, the Y is obviously for Yohji, the three is the Adidas three stripes. And when I worked with them, the idea was, how do we create additional categories? So handbags, outerwear, socks, underwear, to expand the range of the offering within the brand. And that was one of the biggest ways to make it accessible to a larger audience. If you're just selling $500 shoes or, you know, $5,000 ponchos, there's only a limited group of people you can sell the product to. But if the brand has the power to bring you into the store or bring you online to their shop, you want to have the ability to sell product that leads up to the aspirational products. So people may come there for the $800 shoe, but they may leave with a $60 hat or a $150 eyewear piece, something like that. So new product concepts, new product category extensions and licensing, and of course, growing the brand globally. I'm going to zoom through this. Earl Jeans, just briefly, the value of Earl Jeans is, and this should be interesting for factories. VF Corp, Earl Jeans is one of the first premium designers jeans out of LA. And they were lucky enough to get Giselle to be in their ad campaign before she costed as much as she did after Victoria's Secret. So Earl Jeans not only was the first premium brand, they were able to get Giselle as a brand ambassador and in their ad campaigns. But when it was acquired by VF Corp did not want to go into premium denim, and they were basically ready to sell the company for nothing. Jordache Group, and which also owns US Polo Association, went ahead and acquired the brand, primarily because they had multiple manufacturing capabilities and could basically see developing the existing, the heritage styles in the archives of Earl Jean and taking it, either choose to take it to Bergdorf and Neiman and Saks as a reinvention of the premium brand that existed in the 90s, or create a mass market brand of Earl Jean and take it into a Walmart or TJ Maxx. So the decision, once you acquire the name and you get the brand history with it and the styles with it, you have so much that you can do with it. And if you're a manufacturer, and now you can just basically go into the distribution that makes sense for where that brand may be accepted. These are designers that we've worked with, where we've launched them in the US. Carlos Miles from Brazil, Giambattista Valli from Italy, Hudson Jeans, again, an LA brand that we helped launch in Europe and Asia, an Indian factory that we helped launch in within the US as well as into Asia. Vivienne Tam, US brand that we launched into Europe. So let's discuss quickly the brand creation process. If you look at the idea of recognizing something out of nothing, the logo alone has to have the power to create a feeling within the customer. So when you see something, it should immediately resonate some level of feeling with you. So it can be aspirational. It can make your heart beat faster. It can make you want to engage. It can, light a fire that you need to do something with yourself. It can fulfill a promise. It can ultimately take you back to nostalgia. We put the 007 in here simply because as a product, it is so powerful, where at this point there are 4 generations that love this brand, and it has remained on point and consistent for each generation, to love the toys, to love the character, and to love the stories. It's valued at over 30 billion at this point, one of the most valued brand assets in the world today. So for CEOs, for factories, for entrepreneurs, one of the most important thing is that before you can embark on a new venture, before you can create, you must teach yourself to forget, and selectively forget. Um, if you look at the business that from 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, is not as relevant at this point. The just look at a traditional business like Bloomberg Markets, where it's been around forever and it has around 300 million viewers with 13 million on social. And you look at a 22-year-old who has 70 million viewers overnight, now over a few years, but simply because of her reach and her connection to an audience that lives and breathes on social media and is much more engaged than the viewers, which are a more static viewer on Bloomberg. The first thing to understand is it's that branding is the intersection of creativity and commerce. So it's not about crazy people just doing whatever they want to do and creating a dress that can't be sold, or a jacket that is in colors that will never work. There's From that jacket, from that creativity, comes an understanding of what the audience wants. So without the crazy creativity, there isn't the commerce. So everything that a design studio creates is not about commercial success. It's about ideas that are then re-merchandised, understood, and converted to commercial success. But if you don't allow a design studio to have the creative freedom to develop something that is out of the box, you will never stand out in the commercial space. So if you're going to launch a brand, selectively forget the past, manage the present, and create the future. So what does that mean? What made you successful is not what you want to forget. You want to hold on to the fundamentals of hard work, discipline, and knowing what the market needs. You don't want to sacrifice your existing P&L and your existing earnings and your existing revenue stream. So you must manage that to the best of your ability. But if that is all you are doing, then you are not creating a future. So, and as far as creating the future, most of all, we are not in the business of necessities. We're in the business of desire. We're in the business of things. We sell things that people buy for absolutely no reason. Nobody needs another pair of jeans, but yet hundreds of millions of people will go out and buy a pair of jeans that they do not need because they want it, because it makes them look good. And that's ultimately the product that we are selling. So most of all, whatever it is that you're making, make it hot. Make it so desirable that it is an irresistible purchase, that we are convincing them that they have to have it. It's not need, it's desire. How do we do it? How do we build a brand today? So again, what I don't want to do is I don't want to go over. I want to leave a few minutes at the end just for some Q&A. But these are just some basic sentiments of whether you are a factory that wants to look like the best factory out there, or you're a brand that's being introduced to a marketplace. The first and foremost thing is understanding that this is not something that happens magically. It is truly a process. And anyone that's seen a design studio work, the sample facility work, the sourcing facility work, knows what I'm talking about. there is a harsh timeline, there is a approval process, and we have to go through that and we have to stick to it. And if we don't follow it, um, something or the other will fall through the cracks. Know the competitive landscape. Do not design in a bubble. Do not create without knowing what your competition is doing. Identify the market opportunity. Don't just create something because you feel like it or because your competitor is doing it. If there isn't a market niche that you can take share from, then there's no point in creating that product. Uh, Building the right product with a unique brand sensibility, that is a differentiator that we're talking about. The clear target demographic. Who's the person that's actually going to wear this? Who's the person that's going to buy it, whether it's a store, a brand, or a customer? You need to know who it is that you're creating this unique sensibility to. What's the right retail partner? What are the required margins? Um, and brilliant marketing. Easier said than done, but at a certain stage, as a brand builder myself, I'm asked the question. Uh, I have companies, factories, brands, designers showing me their lookbooks, showing me their Instagram pages, their short films, and asking me, "What do you think?" And you know, like our parents taught us, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say it. uh, the honest answer in many of those cases, it looks good. Rarely are, great fashion with good lighting and a great environment is something going to look bad. Um, so the point that I'm making is that it's not about looking good. All of us do good work. The the problem is if it's not brilliant, it will not stand out. And there is people like in our industry, their eyes are trained uh, to look at brilliant. When you are accustomed to looking at a Tom Ford ad or a Nick Knight image or a Wes Anderson short film, um, or you start to think that everything should look that good. So when you see something that's average, that's exactly what it looks like, average. So the difference between good and brilliant is very subtle. But if you do not, as a CEO, as an owner of a company, as an owner of a brand, pay attention to that small difference, or hire the people that can tell you what that difference is, nobody's going to tell you. Everyone's going to tell you, looks great, looks good. And but then why aren't you Gucci? Why aren't you LVMH? Where is the difference? I'm sure there are people right here on this call that can make a handbag at the same quality level as a Dior handbag. Yet nobody's ever heard their name. So the creativity that goes into product design, as well as the creativity that goes into the art direction of the campaigns, as well as the creativity that goes into the web development, all of which connects the consumer to buy something that they don't need because they desire it. That's the difference between good and brilliant. And lastly, but most importantly, we all understand budget. Um, the I think I'll end around. Let's see. I'll end in a couple of minutes. So the one thought is, if we can do one thing, it's to demystify the creative process, enabling entrepreneurs to clearly understand their vision and pursue it with the knowledge necessary for success. So all of everything that I'm speaking to is unfortunately untangible. You either identify the same way that we hire people because they have a skill set, because they can cut a pattern in a way that you trust, or they can work work the machinery, or they can dye a fabric, or they can understand the stitching, or they know how to wash denim. All of those are skill sets. Those same skill sets exist in the brand building exercise. Coming up with the art direction of a campaign, coming up with the the knowledge, doing the research on trend forecasting to provide a team with where next season is going, what colors, what fabrications, and what styles. That is what gives a design studio the ability to confidently create a collection they feel will be commercially successful next season. All of those things are full cycle, uh, parallel world to manufacturing. All of that happens at the design, at the brand level, before a single image or a single tech pack is sent to the factory to make a sample. And once that sample is perfected, what may seem like a nuisance or a nightmare for a factory of like, why is it so important to add another piece of stitching or a label at the bottom of the shirt, or or add two buttons to the cuff instead of the one? There is purpose behind that. Some obsessive designer feels that I absolutely must have those, or the shirt just is not even worth making. And we may not understand that when it's being done, but when it's produced and when that image online goes live, and you see the detail of the double stitching on the cuff with the two buttons instead of the one, and the inner lining of the cuff with a printed fabric different from the solid shirt fabric, all of a sudden you understand, oh, it's part of the brand's DNA and what sets them apart from every other shirt. And there was purpose behind it, and it allows them to charge 50% more than what they would have been if they had just created a basic white shirt. So keep those things in mind. When a designer is excited, there's a reason for them to be excited. Well, not always, but most cases. Um, I think I will leave it at that. And with this quote, so opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. So we should not be afraid of the additional work that we want to do. We should embrace it because it's going to improve us as entrepreneurs. It's going to improve us as manufacturers. It's going to improve us in our ability to work with our strategic partners and how we take product to market. Um, Jason, you want to see if there are any questions, and I will um, basically leave it at um, with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a question here. What should a startup online retailer focus more on, influencer marketing or ad campaign targeting to their target market?
The I think if you're a startup and you want to broaden your audience, I think customer acquisition costs have gone up significantly. Facebook ads are a good vehicle if you believe your customer uses Facebook. Um, for for a generation that's under 25, Facebook is not their first choice. So make sure that if you're doing Facebook ads, you're really doing Instagram ads. Uh, I think TikTok is a better vehicle to engage more organically with your clientele. But yes, the answer to your question is integrated cross-media buying. Uh, Figure out what budget you're comfortable with. What you don't want to do is you don't want to spend a little bit of money and then run out. You want to see, I want to do this. I want to commit to a campaign online, which lasts 3 months, 6 months, because as the algorithm on Facebook and Instagram learns how you advertise, what kind of customers are actually coming to your site, it gets better results at lower prices. So I would absolutely spend that money. But working with influencers makes sense if they are authentic influencers. So if you're a startup, I would be looking at micro influencers, not someone with millions of followers, but someone with a few 100,000 followers. Because in most cases, 50 to 100,000 followers may be organic. When they get in the millions, it's hard to tell how many of those followers are bought, how many are actual bots, and what ROI you're actually getting. So I would be careful in how you measure the metrics of influencers. There are lots of companies out there that connect you to viable micro influencers and do the negotiation for you. So I would go that route. I would do both, but I would be more cautious of the type of influencer I do my partnership with, and they actually bring value, and their customer demographic is in the region that you're selling in. If you're selling online, perfectly fine, then you can go nationwide.
Perfect. I have a question for you, Sal. I know TikTok is all the buzz right now, and there's everybody's raging about it. How it's, like you said, it's a more organic way to kind of reach a new audience. What is the strategy for promoting your brand on TikTok versus something like Instagram? Is it similar in this so far as the content? Is there a different approach to it? I know there's different functionality. What's your opinion on that?
It's when Instagram introduced stories, that's Instagram's vehicle to engage more directly and in a less static photograph way. So what stories does for Instagram is what TikTok is all the time. It's much more interactive. It's entirely video driven. So right there, the trend of marketing and the trend of what customers are engaged with at a higher degree is video as compared to photography. So, and Instagram is still majority, still imagery. So that's one thing. But I think TikTok it's not the kind of thing that you can fake marketing. You actually need to be the person, or partner with someone that takes over your TikTok account, to generate the interest. I don't see like the CEO of a company getting on there and being like, okay, I can do these dance moves. So you really want to make sure that that there is a strategy for your TikTok, and that strategy doesn't come across as cheesy to the audience, because no one on TikTok actually wants to be marketed to. If they like your video, awesome. So it's about creating great content that is for the audience that's there. The minute you do something that looks like an ad, it'll be treated like an ad, meaning it'll be deleted or they'll pass over in a second. So understanding each medium and where is there a possibility for organically connecting with your customer. And TikTok's the best place to organically connect with your customer. So if you have and every company has this character. If you've got some cool kid in your company that like uses TikTok as their personal account, tell them to take it over for a day, and let like each of your employees take it over for a day and see what they come up with. And that's fun. That's how only a lack of control will allow you a degree of creativity. Now, this can be scary for large companies, but it can also be fun because it's not a official sales pitch. It's really about, hey, this is who we are as characters. This is the culture of the company. This is the character of the company. This is who works there. This is what we love. And now in that, if they're wearing the product, all of that, it doesn't seem like you're selling something. It just seems like it's about the character in the video.
Perfect. Well said. A couple other questions here. You mentioned we are in the business of desire, not necessity. Does this apply to the children's apparel market as well? Kids outgrow their clothes fairly quickly.
I'm sorry, Jason, can you repeat that?
Yeah, the question was, so you had mentioned earlier that we are in the business of desire, not necessity. The question was, does this concept also apply to the children's apparel market due to the fact that kids outgrow their clothes fairly quickly?
You know, yes and no, and of course, what I said is exaggerating a point to make sure that we understand that there's enough black dresses out there. There are enough white T-shirts with like slogans out there. And how does it apply to kids? It applies to kids in the same way. You know, like the kid really doesn't know what he's wearing. So it's the parents who desire that their kid looks cute, and they will choose to yes, they have to go buy something for their size, but they're choosing to buy, Bon Pont as opposed to Gap Kids. They're choosing which brand they're purchasing. So yes, the pricing is an issue, but a luxury consumer could just as well go to Sears, or sorry, not Sears, but TJ Maxx or Costco, and take care of the same necessity. But they're going to go uh, buy a luxury brand, pay 5 times the price for a pair of shorts that the kid is going to outgrow in about a year and a half, or less, or rip through them in like 6 months. So there is the sense of I do need this, but when you get there, the choice that you're making is based upon, um, I need to eat, but why do I end up ordering like a $70 steak when I can just as easily have, rice and lentil? So it's it's about the desire factor that I want to look good. I want my kids to look good. I want people, we aspire for the best. And when we aspire for the best, we look at what inspires us, what our peers might be wearing or using. What did we see? Human nature is, what did I see in a magazine? Did I see this in a movie? Did I see it on a celebrity? In today's day, did I see it on Instagram? Did I see it on an influencer? And all of those things factor into our decision into making a purchase.
Yeah, well said. I got to say, I think we're in the heyday, the golden age of children's apparel. I see how diligent parents are in wanting to make sure the kids look cute. And I look back at my old pictures when I was a kid, and I was like, yeah, not so much back then. I don't know. I think maybe just my parents fell a little short on the dressing us well. Anyway, okay. Next question. What is the best answer to give when a manufacturer calls a potential customer and they tell you that we already have many suppliers and are not looking for we're not looking for or adding new suppliers?
And that's 90% of the time. So, Sonny, answering your question, it's I think be professional, be persistent, and you're about 30 seconds away from the conversation ending. So all you can essentially say is, I completely understand. Would it be okay if I share our lookbook with you, and maybe you can keep us in your portfolio when the time comes? If that's okay, I'd like to do that. And I think 90%, almost everyone would be happy to say yes to something like that. So all you need to do is get your material to them and allow them at their pace, at their leisure, to take a look and keep you in their database. So keep in mind that a call is great, but following up before the call with an email, or after the call with an email, or some type of hard message, which now puts you in their database, so that 6 months from now, 1 year from now, they're like, oh, who was that guy that called me that I didn't need him then? And they can just punch in, denim, India, and it shows up in their email search. So think of what are the short 1/2 paragraph that you're going to write in the email, and the lookbook that you're going to attach, that will gain their interest and, stick in their memory for the future.
Perfect. All right. That's all the questions we have. Sal, thank you so much for that in-depth overview. Always a pleasure to have you at the show. I'd like to remind everybody that we do have a show office on the main virtual show dashboard. Speakers like Sal and our show staff will be in and out of that room all day long. That's also where you can engage with other attendees and ask any ATS staff for your sourcing needs. They're happy to help. And we'll be continuing our seminar series here in 30 minutes. So, but for now, we'll see you soon. Sal, it's good to see you. And hopefully get to see you in person next year.
Absolutely. Hopefully soon.